run from what you feel, but that's exactly what is killing you inside. You protect yourself from pain, from rage, from shame. But what you call protection might just be cowardice. Carl Jung knew this. He didn't see lost people. He saw people running from themselves while asking why nothing makes sense. You say you're searching for purpose, but maybe your purpose is already there, in the exact place you refuse to look. Today, the truth won't be soft, but maybe it will set you free.
You think you're searching for purpose, but the truth is much dirtier than that. You're just too afraid to face the part of yourself you've buried your whole life. You run from your rage, from the envy you pretend to admire, from the shame you never really named. You wear your mask like it's maturity, but deep down, it's just avoidance. Carl Jung understood purpose isn't found in the light, it's carved out of the darkness. And as long as you keep running from your darkest parts, you'll keep calling survival a life. This video isn't about positivity. It's about descending into the basement of your soul, where everything you don't want to see lives, and realizing that maybe that's exactly where your meaning has always been hiding.
The shadow is what you don't want to admit, but everyone around you can feel it. It's the pride you disguise as confidence, the envy you pretend is admiration, the resentment you swallow with a smile. Everything you swept under the carpet of your mind is now choking you from the inside. The shadow is born every time you try to be someone you're not, when you lie, when you shrink, when you betray yourself just to be loved. It's shaped in the silence of childhood, when you learned that feeling was dangerous, that crying was weakness, that wanting was shameful, that speaking your truth could cost you affection. So you built a mask, beautiful, acceptable, but it came with a cost. You distanced yourself from what was real inside you. And with each passing year, that shadow grows. Because what is repressed doesn't disappear. It waits. In your outbursts, in your sabotage, in your failed relationships. Carl Jung didn't see the shadow as evil. He saw it as raw material of the soul. Something to be faced, integrated, not destroyed. Because only when you accept the monster inside you does it stop devouring you from within. You weren't born ashamed of your feelings. Someone taught you that. Someone laughed at your tears, told you to suck it up, called your sensitivity too much. You learned early on that being your full self had consequences. So you started to shrink, to hide, to obey, to smile when you wanted to scream, to give in so you wouldn't be abandoned, to stay quiet just to be loved. That's where the shadow begins, the moment you sacrifice your truth to be accepted by someone else. And society applauds it, calls it maturity, calls it success. But really, it's emotional mutilation dressed up as virtue. You became the ideal child, the perfect employee, the stable partner. But inside, you're in ruins. With every part of you that was silenced, a piece of your shadow grew. It didn't vanish. It became fear. It became numbness. It became your quiet panic. The shadow is made of what you had to deny to survive. And now, as an adult, it demands that you face the cost of the truth you abandoned. The more you avoid it, the more it poisons everything you touch.
You want to know why your life feels empty? Because you're disconnected from what you feel. And without feeling, there is no path, just repetition. You try to cover that void with performance, with work, with goals, with spiritual shortcuts. But deep down, at night, when it's quiet, the emptiness still waits. Carl Jung said that purpose is a consequence, not a goal. It appears when you reconnect with who you truly are, with what you've buried, with the anger you weren't allowed to express, with the desires you were taught to be ashamed of, with the trauma you pretended to forget. You can spend your whole life trying to find your purpose, but until you reclaim your lost parts, everything will feel fake. Everything will feel borrowed, because what you repressed is exactly what makes you you. It's where your life force is. It's the root of your uniqueness. Ignoring the shadow is like building a house on rotten soil. It may look fine from the outside, but inside, it's collapsing. Your real purpose doesn't come with a title. It's not a diploma. It's not a perfectly crafted calling. It's a raw answer to a silent call, one that only appears when you finally stop hiding from yourself.
You don't want the truth. You want comfort, noise, distraction, anything that protects you from looking inward. And the worst part, you've learned to call that a normal life. Look around. People are always rushing, always busy, always connected, but inside, empty. Because running from yourself is a slow form of death. You say you're tired, anxious, lost, but maybe you're just addicted to running. You run from anger, from grief, from silence. You even run from joy, because somewhere inside, you believe you don't deserve it. This isn't just distraction. It's cowardice. It's the fear that if you stop, you'll collapse. So you drown in dopamine, scrolling, series, productivity, motivational quotes, all to avoid facing the part of you that's been screaming for years. Carl Jung called this resistance to individuation. You'd rather be functional than whole. You'd rather seem fine than actually be. But all this effort to look strong just reveals how weak you feel inside. As long as you keep running from your shadow, your purpose will keep running from you.
The shadow isn't here to destroy you. It's here to set you free. What you've buried the deepest holds the greatest force. All the anger you swallowed is creative power you never used. All the sadness you denied is sensitivity you never allowed to bloom. All the guilt is compassion twisted out of shape. You say you want purpose, but you deny the very material it's made of. Because your true purpose isn't in what you try to become, it's in what you have the courage to finally accept. Carl Jung saw the shadow as a portal. Through it, you stop living as a moral facade and start living as a real human being. This is the process of individuation, when you stop performing and start existing. And existence is not clean. It's raw. It's contradictory. It's human. But it's only from this raw honesty that something real can grow. What you call weakness might be your deepest doorway into connection. What you call darkness might be the gold you were too afraid to dig for. Your purpose isn't a job title. It's not a brand. It's not clarity. It's the echo of a voice that only starts to speak when you finally stop running.
It's not just you. Every human at some point is called to descend to the underworld of the soul, to the darkness behind the mirror, to the chaos beneath the surface. It has a name: the hero's journey. In the old stories, the hero doesn't start strong. He starts lost, called by something he doesn't understand, pushed by a pain he can't ignore. Then comes the descent, the desert, the labyrinth, the monster. But what he finds there isn't the enemy. It's a part of himself that had to be reclaimed. This is the shadow. What you call crisis might be your first step toward integration. What you call breaking down might be the beginning of something sacred. Persephone had to go underground to bloom. Orpheus had to lose everything to hear the real music. The hero only becomes whole when he walks through his own darkness. You don't have to believe in myths, but you do need to understand what they're saying. Your purpose isn't born when life is easy. It's born when you survive what nearly destroyed you.
You think you hate certain people, but the truth is, they remind you of parts of yourself you can't stand. You resent arrogant people, but maybe you've learned to erase yourself. You judge those who speak too much, but maybe you've lost your voice. You despise the weak, but only because you can't tolerate how fragile you feel inside. This is projection. Everything you repress has to come out somehow. If it doesn't explode inward, it leaks outward through judgment, irritation, moral superiority. The shadow you refuse to own is the same one you attack in others. That's why human relationships hurt so much, because they reflect what you don't want to face. The other person isn't always the problem. Sometimes they're your mirror. Carl Jung said projection is easier than integration because it takes courage to look in the mirror, and no one wants to admit that the monster they see out there is also in here. Until you face this, you'll stay trapped in the cycle of blame, frustration, and guilt, and you'll keep calling it personality.
You've spent your life trying to escape pain. But pain is the one thing holding the map to your healing. You've tried to protect yourself from discomfort, but comfort kept you asleep. The pain you hate so much was trying to wake you up. The truth is, you don't want to feel, but only those who feel all the way through can actually heal. Pain comes to tear down the defenses, to crack the role you've been playing, to remind you of what you forgot you were. And the more you resist it, the louder it screams. Carl Jung saw suffering not as punishment, but as part of the individuation process, a signal that something is trying to be born inside you, but it's still trapped in the dark. Pain is a kind of labor, and you're trying to skip the contractions. But there is no authentic light without first walking through your own hell.
You don't need to defeat the shadow. You need to listen to it. Not with urgency, not with rules, but with presence. Facing the shadow is not a task. It's a ritual. It's sitting in the dark without seeking light. It's letting the monsters show themselves without running. It's stopping the question why and learning to feel what. Silence, writing, dreams, art, all the voices inside you that you've ignored for years.
Carl Jung gave deep importance to the unconscious, to what appears in symbols, images, dreams, and impulses. These are messages, fragments of you that were buried and are now trying to return. You don't have to understand everything. You have to feel with honesty. You have to allow yourself to break. You have to stay inside yourself even when what rises is terrifying. The shadow doesn't want to consume you. It wants to be integrated. And for that to happen, you have to stop running.
You weren't born to be perfect or to be good. You were born to be whole. And wholeness demands that you meet the parts of you that hurt, that scare you, that you've even hated. The shadow isn't a mistake. It's the part of your story you abandoned. The version of you that bled in silence, that shrank to survive, and now wants to come back. You can keep running, keep distracting, numbing, pretending, but the emptiness will only grow, because it's not a lack of purpose, it's a lack of courage. Carl Jung said individuation begins when you accept who you are, not who you were trained to appear to be. Maybe you'll never find your life purpose, but if you have the courage to go within, to face what you fear the most, you'll find something even more important. You. And maybe, just maybe, that was what was missing all along.